So if you're too late, you're too late. But let's go for 3 questions. Let's go for the 3 hands up there for now. Yes, please.
Hi. I find that my political loyalty is changed massively. It's flip-flopped. And a lot of people I know have changed their decision drastically over the past 3 to 5 years. I'm slightly disheartened because when I'm thinking of voting, I've got 3 choices. I vote for the party, or I vote for the candidate, or I vote for the leader. But I've only got one choice on the paper. And that leads me to start to think, well, do I tactical vote? And I see some really good people in the on the panel today, but I won't vote for you because I'm now thinking about who's the best chance to get into government, or at least to be in Parliament. And Brexit and the outcry from that is a bit of evidence with regards to that. My question is, again, there's an inherent question because am I asking you, am I asking the leader, or am I asking your party? But if you think that change is needed, what would you do?
Thank you very much. Let's get 2 more at the same time, and we'll give candidates time to answer all 3. So the gentleman up there, and 2 rows in front of him as well.
There should probably be a question about Brexit, so I'll do that. The Conservative sort of message is that we should all get behind their vision for Brexit, and that it's somehow in the national interest to do so. But a question for Anne Milton is, do you not recognise that for those of us who think, for example, that staying in the single market is important, the national interest is to hold the Conservatives to account and not to get behind you with a massive majority, especially as, from the EU's point of view, they don't care how big your majority is in the negotiations, so it's irrelevant.
Thank you very much. Let's come over this side.
I have a question mainly for Anne, but if anyone else can answer how they wish, then that's fine. You said that there are over 1 million children in failing schools. So how do you justify the Conservatives cutting funding to those schools, making them worse, and creating new schools? So overall, there's kind of less funding in general, and there are failing schools. Why don't you just improve the current ones instead of make the problem bigger?
Thank you. We'll tackle those 3, and then we'll come back for 3 more, starting with the gentleman over there. Let's begin with this round right on the right-hand side. So, Mark, the 3 questions were, just to remind you, and you each have a minute and a half to do whatever you want with this. Party, candidate, or leader, who would you vote for? Do you tactical vote? What's the point in it all? 2, Brexit, however you wish to tackle it. And 3, well, school funding. Schools are failing, and there's cuts happening. Mark.
Okay, so some great questions here, so I'll try and fly through them to cover each question. First point, first past the post is a pain. We need a proper voting system, a PR system, not an AV system that we seem to get a vote on with the coalition. What do you do in this area? What would I do with your vote? I would vote for who you personally believe best represents you and which party, and I wouldn't be taken in by some dodgy bar graphs or anything else. Vote for who you believe in. There are other benefits to parties other than just getting to MP with the number of votes that come through. So do vote for who you believe in. Brexit, well, regardless of what's going to happen on June the 8th, the strongest negotiating position is by far the EU. They will hold all the cards. What's the best Brexit deal? The best Brexit deal is pretty much identical to what we currently have now, but we're unfortunately going to have to pay more. Would I pay more to have exactly the same benefits and access? Yes. Do I think we need to leave at this point? No. What else I can say? Was it a minute and a half on each question? Or?
No, in total, but I'll raise it till 2 because that
okay.
seemed fair.
And then the schools, £3 million are being cut from Guildford and Cranley schools. £3 million. I mean, it's an absurd number. Think about the amount of teachers have cut down, how much more hours teachers are going to have to require. Green Party policy is to fund it and year-on-year increases, and I think that's a necessity. Our children's education is the most important thing we can invest in.
Thank you very much. We'll go straight along the row. So, Semi, do you want to tackle those 3?
Yeah, so on the first question, I think I have a unique position here where I am effectively the candidate, the party and the leader. What I will say, I'll echo the sentiment about first past the post being a terrible system. I think we probably have a number of students here who understand things like the Arrows theorem and the work that's been done behind understanding how votes can be made fairer. And I don't think it's a matter of personal opinion. I think if we listen to the experts here and all of the work that's been done, then we know that it's one of the worst possible systems. And there are very many other alternatives, not just a straw man option like alternative vote that we can send to referendum to score political points against coalition partners. On the second point, Brexit, what would I do about Brexit? Well, I try to base all of my policies on local sentiment. It might shock you to know that I actually voted to leave, but I can see all of the arguments for Remain. I think that we need to stand for that position very strongly. I think that we need to guarantee EU workers the right to remain in the UK if they're already here. I don't think that that will weaken our bargaining position one bit. I think it will make Europe look really quite nasty if they turn around and say, well, we're going to use the right to remain of your citizens as a bargaining chip. I think that actually gives us the higher ground and strengthens our position. And then we talked, the other question was about how do we justify funding cuts in education. Now, I can't give you a justification for those cuts, but I can explain to you how they managed to convince people that these things are good. And it's because they don't look at it in realistic terms. They'll throw out some figure to explain it. We're spending X more on Y without explaining why there's any benefit to that spend, whether it meets the current demand for more spend and what effect it has. And this really is the difference between rhetoric and reason. You know, when you make a statement that people will agree with that sounds convincing instead of laying forth the facts and allowing them to come to their own conclusion on it. I think that addresses all three questions. Thank you.
And that was 2 minutes on the nose as well, so thank you. Zoe, those three questions.
So the first question about who should you vote for or how you should vote, I would say for two reasons. I believe that Tim Farron has very clearly positioned us as the opposition. We want to provide a strong and effective opposition. And I believe that you should vote for the person you feel will best be a strong voice for Guildford. And I firmly believe that I am that person. I've been involved in the community ever since I got here. That's nearly 20 years now. I've been a local borough councillor. I've fought hard for Guildford. And I want to do that on a national level. So I hope that you will consider voting for me and put your mark by my name on the 8th. And in terms of Brexit, I think our party position is quite clear. I was a very strong Remainer. We do not want a hard Brexit. You know, I wish that we could stay in the EU. We trusted the nation with the original vote, and I strongly believe that we should trust the nation with how we go with the deal. And actually, if the nation turns around and says this deal that's on the table is not the right one, we want to stay in Europe, then we stay in Europe. Because just like Mark has said, I actually believe we are better off in Europe. You know, we are stronger as part of a whole, and we share information and research. We have access to funding, all of these things, and that is so important. And on the topic of grammar schools and funding, I'm fundamentally opposed to grammar schools because I'm a governor and I've seen it from the inside what is happening to education, and frankly, it's unacceptable. And my party's very clearly said that we want to invest about £7 billion extra into education. And actually, if you go down the grammar route, that money that is available for all schools, currently state schools, and through an academy chains, disappears. You know, we should be investing in the education we've got right now, enabling teachers and to maintain buildings and ensuring that children in all schools have a good education, not building new schools to take children out of existing schools and create this additional set. We need education funding in what we've got right now to make it good and excellent for everyone.
Anne.
I think how you vote depends on what you think is the most important issue coming up. So if you want, if Brexit is an important issue, which of the party leaders will both best represent us in Europe? I think there are attractions with proportional representation, but you lose the constituency link, which I think is actually terribly important. AV was thrown out. There are lots of other voting methods. I think the problem with them is that it's quite hard for people to understand what they're doing when they vote, and which is why I think the AV referendum was voted down. I'm not suggesting you are stupid. If you talk to people, they like to pick a local representative. So I think it depends which issue you think is most important. But I do think it matters what MP you have locally and who's going to fight for you and who is going to be that loud, strong voice and who's going to be able to get from government what you need, whether it's your own political party or another political party. As far as Brexit is concerned, I think a second referendum would be an economic disaster for this country. If I talk to people in business, if I talk to people across Guildford, the one thing they say is that we need certainty. And I do not think that it is in this country's economic interest to have a second referendum. As far as school funding is concerned, school funding has gone up, but costs have gone up. And the Conservatives are quite clear they will be putting £4 billion into education. You are absolutely right that there are schools that are failing. As I said, 1 million children. Standards have gone up without a doubt. There are more children achieving than there have done before. But some of those schools are stubbornly refused to improve. I think that we want all sorts of schools that suit different areas. It is the case that if the fairer funding formula, which most schools in Guildford do support a fairer funding formula, change in formula, then the funding for education in Guildford would go up 3.6%.
Thank you very much. John Morris.
Yes, thank you. Yes, a number of speakers have already mentioned voting by proportional representation. We've got examples within the UK where proportional voting systems are in operation and they work very well. We helped to introduce the system of voting, for example, in Germany following the Second World War. That seems to work pretty well too. So let's keep working towards that, and I know a number of colleagues here are working on that too. Voting, yes, vote for the ideas, the philosophy of the group that the person in front of you is standing for. Not just the policies, the ideas, the philosophy. As far as the European Union is concerned, we accept the fact that we're leaving. What we must keep on at our representatives to do is to make sure that they come back with a really good deal, like several others on the panel here. I voted to remain. We're not going to do that. We're going to leave, and let's get the best that we can from that leaving process, making sure, for example, that we have good deals for the farming community, that their funding continues, and that we get the same standard of food that we need. And finally, on the schools, I wonder if we can go back to the grassroots here of our thinking and think, let's get away for the moment from the institutions, the grammar schools, the junior schools, the failing schools. Let's think what the young people are there to do. They're there to learn, and that's where the emphasis, I feel, should be in education. It's on the pupils, the students learning. So we have to have the right way that they can learn.
Thank you very much. And finally, on those three, Howard.
A minute and a half for these three issues, Andre. It's pretty ambitious.
We're up to 2 minutes. So
okay,
it should be easy.
So the first question was about, do you vote for party, candidate or leader? Most times I would say vote for the party, but I'd add a fourth to that, and the fourth one is manifesto, because the manifesto really sets out the ideas, the programme for the next 5 years, and I think it's really important. And I think people should read manifestos and see what the ideas are in there, and include that in their decision making about who to vote for. On Brexit, I'm a Remainer. It's quite possible that I handed you a leaflet when I was canvassing for Remain in the High Street, or put one through your door. I really canvassed hard for Remain, and I went to the vote at the Spectrum and was gutted, quite frankly. Having said that, I think the Labour Party policy is absolutely right on this. We accept the referendum result. You've got voices on one side saying we're going full on for Brexit, and you've got voices on the other side saying we're going to put roadblocks in the way of it at every opportunity. You accept, if you're a Democrat, you accept the result of the election, and the Labour Party has accepted that, and we voted for Article 50, which I think is right. But now we've got a 2-year period of negotiation, and whichever party's in government, they've got to come up with a really, really good deal. As Mark said, it should be as good a deal as we've got at the moment, and that's what we're looking for them to deliver. And the Labour Party manifesto is quite clear that at the end of that process there should be a meaningful vote in Parliament, which means if it's a bad deal, we won't vote for it, we'll reject it. And I think that's, to me, that is the right thing to do. You have to accept democratic votes, but the result of that is that you have to get a really good deal, and that's what the Labour Party will be pushing for very, very strongly. On schools, well, it goes back to all the other things that we've had in the last 7 years. We've had cuts. We've had cuts everywhere, and I have to include Zoe's party in that because they were in the coalition for 5 years. We've had massive cuts to schools. We've had massive cuts to Sure Start centres. The most ridiculous thing. People need a good start in life, and Sure Starts has been 1,200 Sure Start centres have been closed. We need to reverse the education maintenance allowance. Really nasty, petty thing to do. People who want to go and learn are having taken away from them. Grammar schools, where did that come from? Crazy idea. The Labour Party's got some very clear, practical policies on education. It's in the manifesto. I recommend it. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to